What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and I know I said no Nintendo footage, but my Elgato arrived today, and I've been trying it out on all different types of stuff. My 360, my Wii U, my PS3, sorry, not my PS3, my PS4, and my Xbox One, and it's been going really well. I'm very impressed with it so far. Obviously, I've only messed around with it a little bit, but like I said, I'm very impressed with it. I'm going to get around to some of the more advanced features fairly soon, and until then, I'm just going to use variable, different recording methods and recording qualities and things like that to find out what I can use to get the best outward video file basically for YouTube. But the main reason I decided on breaking the no Nintendo footage thing is because today is the 20th anniversary of Chrono Trigger. So on March 11th, 20 years ago, Jesus Christ, I couldn't work out the date in my head there for a second. March 11th, 1995, 20 years ago, yes. Chrono Trigger released on the Super Nintendo. Now that's the Japanese release date. That's the first one. So obviously it came to North America shortly I'm not sure shortly after, but eventually after. But it never actually came officially to the EU until the Nintendo DS version, or the Wii Virtual Console version, whatever way you want to look at it. Now, the thing that really annoyed me about that back in the day was because I was really looking forward to Chrono Trigger. Secret of Mana is obviously it's one of the best games of all time. It's my personal favorite game of all time. Secret of Mana, that is, not Chrono Trigger. But Chrono Trigger is definitely up there. It's probably number 2. The problem with my top games, like number 1 is clear cut, but number 2 to 5 are all like, they're so close. It's impossible for me to pick a proper one. Like, I mean, there's a couple of them up there. Obviously, 4 games can't talk to that in particular. But the main thing is they're all so close that I can't choose them. But Chrono Trigger is in there now. The reason for that, or the reason why it annoyed me kind of going back a bit, is because all the Nintendo magazines and all the games magazines back in the day, even here in Europe, even though the game wasn't coming out here, I'm not sure if it was just cancelled at the last minute to come out here or not, but they all had huge spreads on it. I mean, there was one magazine I had that back in the day, it had like a 10-page massive cover of Chrono Trigger, and this was just before it was coming out. So, you know, there was hype everywhere, and it looked so good. And this was back in the 90s, so there was no internet for this kind of stuff. You know, you'd buy the one magazine a month, maybe 2, and you know, this was crazy. I had like a giant poster of the entire Millennia Fair at one point, and when you look at what a page for a magazine was back then, it was like 20 pages long. It was crazy. Or 20 pages, like 4 by 5 or 5 by 5, maybe 25 pages, whatever. But it was huge, and it was on the wall, the entire Millennium Fair. And then it just never came out. It killed me. But that's what inspired me a couple of years later. This was probably about 10, 12 years ago. It actually inspired me because by then the internet was getting big and online purchases and all. And I actually bought a US copy of Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo. And I imported an American SNES, Super Nintendo. And that's what I played it on. And I obviously had to get some power converters, and the cables and all worked fine because that was the standard Nintendo multi AV out, and that worked pretty well. So I mean, that when I finally got Chrono Trigger after all those years, it still blew me away. This was in the PS2 gen era kind of thing, and it still blew me away, and I could tell like instantly. And I played the game for a ridiculous amount of time, and I could tell instantly that it was one of the greatest games of all time. It had overthrown many of my previous favorites of the last 5 to 6, 7, 8, 10 years, and it was just so good. It's so ridiculously good. And I mean, it's got. I'm not going into a whole retrospective video on it because I could talk about Chrono Trigger for fucking weeks. So I mean, if you thought my Shenmue one was long, and I mean this could be even longer if I did a Chrono Trigger one, but I won't. So I'll try to keep it relatively short. It's still probably going to be a bit of maybe a 10, 12 minute long video kind of thing, most likely at the end of it. But it's got what's considered the dream team, and those are the writers, directors, and artists. Sorry, director and writer, the artist, and what's the last one I'm thinking? The composer of some of Square's greatest games, and because of that, well, I suppose I'm not sure if you could include Akira Toriyama as one of Square's ones, but he's the guy who does all DBZ, and well, he does the art for DBZ, and it's pretty apparent in Chrono Trigger. I mean, just take a look at Chrono, for example. He's basically Goku, but I mean, when you put all those three together, you get an absolutely amazing game. You get it still holds up on everyone's list. It holds up. It reaches the top of best games ever, most influential games ever, all the time. It's absolutely fantastic. The story is amazing. I mean, most people think, oh, it's an old game. It doesn't matter. The story is still there. It's still great. The characters are fucking fantastic. I'm a bit partial to Super Nintendo artwork myself, so I still think it's just absolute gorgeous. The whole mechanics in the game are brilliant as well. It basically introduced the time skip mechanics, if you will. You travel through time. I'll start from the start, actually, really, really short. You take control of a boy named Chrono, he wakes up one morning and they're going to celebrate the Millennium Fair, which is 1000 AD, and they're going to celebrate the entire fair. His friend Luca, who is an inventor with her father Tabin, they're going to show off their latest invention, which turns out to be a teleport pod. So Chrono goes to the Millennium Fair, and he runs into a random girl named Marl. Now, Marl is not actually Marl, but I played a game and yeah, it's just so good. But through a series of unfortunate events, I think I just said unfortunate events. I can't talk today. I'm still so excited about the Elgato and this video because of what it is. But yeah, something goes wrong when when Luca is showing off her latest invention, and Marl gets trapped in time and sent to another time period. And the whole principle behind the game is time travel. So what you do in different time zones or different time periods affects other histories and the future of other time periods too. So when you do something in, say, the past and that changes the future, you go back, you're either in an alternate future where something different has happened, or you're in your original future where something never happened. So, I mean, it's a fantastic game. The amount of content in it, the amount of side quests, it's all there. It's absolutely amazing. So all I can say really is 20 years on, it's still an amazing game. Now, the last time I played Chrono Trigger properly was the end of last year, the end of 2014. My computer was down, I needed some maintenance on it, and I needed a part to replace. But what I did was I turned on some of my old Super Nintendo games, some of my old Super Nintendo JRPGs, and oh my god, they're still all fantastic. That's what I call the golden age of gaming. But I mean, Chrono Trigger, it's unparalleled nearly. There's very, very short list of games that can be mentioned in the same breath, of the same quality, of pretty much every aspect of the entire game. So all I can say is 20 years on, the game it's still a masterpiece. Happy 20th birthday, Chrono Trigger. And thank you for the ridiculous amounts of memories and the ridiculous amounts of good times they've been had by millions, myself included. I even kind of I'll admit sometimes, depending on my mood and the song that comes on, I do get a little bit misty eyed and a little bit teary eyed over some of the soundtrack, because it's just so fantastic, and it just brings up so many absolutely amazing memories of the game, of my younger times in life. It's all just amazing. I can't just, I'll just overstate it at this point. I'll just be repeating myself on how great it is. So I'm just going to leave the video here. Let me know in the comment section below your experience with Chrono Trigger on whatever platform, at whatever time in your life. It's whatever you feel is appropriate to share with Chrono Trigger, because 20 years of bringing joy to absolutely everyone is fantastic. I look forward to 20 years more, maybe even, no, not even maybe even more than 20 years on in the future. This game will still be delighting absolutely anyone who plays it. So this has been a little bit of an emotional cue from Retro Q Gaming. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching any of these videos in my channel. Thank you for putting up with me, and I will see you on the next video in my channel.